everybody, Bill 1911 here. Today we're going to look at another gun that's it's kind of interesting. This is a copy of a Mauser Broomhandle. Okay, the Mauser is called the C-96. Okay, now this one is chambered in 9mm. The original was chambered in a round called 30 Mauser, 30 caliber bullet, a necked cartridge. It would remind you a lot if you were looking at the 7.62 by 25 that's fired by the CZ52 made in Czechoslovakia. That was the original round. This one does not shoot those. It shoots 9mm. Now you can tell that this is a copy because if you look right back here on the back of the handle, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but right here it says China. Okay, so we know this is a Chinese copy. The other way that you can tell is that the original had an integral box magazine. This one actually has detachable magazines with a magazine release right here on the side. That's the only real difference in the basic design. This disassembles and reassembles in the same way that the original Mauser does. Years ago, I had a friend who lived in Coral Gables, and he had a real Mauser. And let me tell you something, that thing was a joy to work on. Everything in it was fit with precision, but it had nice clearance to it, so it wasn't like a fight to take it apart. This one is kind of a fight to get it apart, but the procedure is the same. So we're going to start by, like we always do, we're going to check and make sure that there is nothing in the chamber. So we're going to pull a bolt back, and we're going to take a look in the chamber, and there's no rounds in it. Okay, so that's our that's our Mauser Broomhandle is now empty. We're also going to verify that there is no ammunition in the work area. That just keeps everyone around us safe. So to take this apart, we're going to need a little screwdriver. Okay, right back here, this button sticking out is the firing pin. As you can see, it pushes in and out. Okay, but the other thing that happens is you push it in with the screwdriver and you turn it, and the firing pin extracts right out the back of the bolt. Okay, that's the first thing you have to take apart to get this thing out, or first thing you have to take out to get it apart. The next thing right here on the side is a little button that you have to push forward and rock it out of the frame. Okay, now this is sort of held in place by the recoil spring, which is down inside the bolt. Once you get that piece out the side, okay, I'm going to, all right, once you get that pulled out of there, okay, then you can take the bolt and extract it from the frame. Okay, comes right out. So it doesn't, you know, flop out in your hand. You got to pull on it pretty good to get it come out. At least on this one you do. And from here you can start to take the rest of the gun apart. Now right back here on the back there's a little button. Okay, I'm going to try and manipulate it with a screwdriver so that you can see it move and see what it does. This is a lock. Okay, you can see it moving. All right, this lock is what keeps the gun together. Now we're going to push this up, okay, and we're going to get our rag and we're going to put it down to protect our table and everything. Okay, now I'm going to fold this a couple of times. Now on a regular Mauser, it's nowhere near this difficult to get it apart. They pull apart much easier than this one is going to. But we're going to take this button, we're going to push it all the way up, and then we're going to punch down on it like that, and that's going to pop everything right out. Okay, now I'm going to try and put it back and then re-angle the camera so you can see that a little bit better how it came out. Alright, so let's pop this dude back in, which is no small trick. Alright, now don't beat on your gun with a hammer, a hard face hammer, but I am going to tap on it with the wooden part of the handle until it pops back in. So I'm going to re-angle the camera so you can see this a little better. Alright. I'm running two cameras today, and I don't think I caught it on either one of the cameras. Okay, so we're going to do that again. We're going to take this button, hold it up, and we're going to kind of punch this down, and it's going to slide right off the end. Okay, now that takes the handle in the box off of the gun. Okay, and from here there's a lot of parts in this thing, so you can take it all completely apart if you want to, but it is kind of a pain in the butt to put it back together. In fact, that's why I ended up with this gun, is a guy took it completely apart and couldn't reassemble it. So from here, oil what needs to be oiled. I don't think I'd take it apart a lot further than this unless you need to. But from here you can also clean the barrel. So what I'm going to start out with is I'm going to lift the action out of the gun. Okay, we're going to pick up on it and it's going to come right out. Okay, now when you go to put this back together, this part right here has to hook into this slot right here and then has to be pushed down all the way. Okay, you're not going to be able to get it back together unless you do that. This piece will just pretty much just flop right out. Okay, again, it hooks in and drops into place. Alright, so not hard to deal with. Well, now you've got it down to the barrel where you can just simply clean all this up. So like always, we're going to use our bore cleaning solvent, and we're going to use patches. And I always like to use a jag, but today I'm going to do this a little differently just to show you how. This is a thimble, and what the thimble does is we can take a patch that we've wet with our bore cleaning solvent, and we can use that to mop the inside of our barrel to get it wet so the solvent starts working on the deposits that are in the barrel. Now, one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, one of my patrons wrote in and said, hey, you know, you're using that solvent, maybe you ought to use some gloves on your hands to protect them. So, and I agree, he's absolutely right. Okay, so that's what I've done here. These are nitrile gloves, okay, and they are rated for chemicals and all the rest. I bought these at Harbor Freight, which does very inexpensive stuff. I bought a box of, I don't know, 500 or so, so that I could use them in this process. But they're not horribly expensive. They are definitely affordable, and they're worth the time, I gotta say, to protect your hands from the chemicals that you're using in these guns to clean them up. Okay, so I'm going to just get this all wet down in here with our solvent. Now I'm going to try and show you a trick that will help you with this. Alright, so when we put our patch on, okay, it doesn't fit real tight into the barrel. So what we can do is we can push it through the barrel, and it's not fitting real tight, until it starts to come out the other end, okay, and then pull it backwards. And what that's going to do is kind of fold it in on top of itself, okay, and it'll tighten it up so it fits tighter through that bore, and that's going to distribute our bore cleaner much more evenly through the rifling. Okay, so once you've got that wet, all right, from here we're going to move on to a bore brush. when I use a jag, quite often I don't find that I need to use the bore brush. I look down through the barrel and wow, that's pretty darn clean, and I go from there. But we're going to use a brush on this one, again, if nothing else, just to show you what we're doing, okay? So, we're going to get down in here, and we're going to get our 9mm brush out, okay? Now, 9mm, 357 Magnum, 38, 9mm by 18, which is what the Makarov shoots, 9mm Kurtz, or 380. Use the same brush, okay? It's a 357 diameter brush. 9mm bullets are 0.355 thousandths of an inch in diameter, okay? So 38 and 357. Lead bullets are 358 thousandths of an inch in diameter, and the copper jacketed ones are 357 thousandths of an inch in diameter. So that's where they get their names, okay? So this brush works on all of those. Now, when you're using your brush, I want to show you something important. You're going to want to take your brush, and you don't want to go halfway down the barrel and then reverse directions and pull it out. And the reason why is because it will kink the bristles on that brush, and it will decrease the diameter of the brush, so you don't get as much pressure on the barrel when you're cleaning it in the rifling. So you want to take your brush and you want to push it all the way through the action, okay, till it comes out the other side, all right? And then pull it back all the way out and just go in and out all the way. This is going to dramatically increase the longevity of your brush. It's just going to last a whole lot longer that way. Now, one other thing, as you're going down the barrel, you're going to actually feel that brush twisting, okay? The whole rod is going to twist as it goes down the barrel, and it's following the rifling. Well, you want that to happen because that cleans the rifling very thoroughly that way. Now, this handle on this brush, or on this cleaning rod, like most cleaning rods, it spins on the rod itself. And it's designed to do that so that the brush can follow the rifling. Also, if you have a jag, it will also follow the rifling. And that's what you want to happen, okay? So, now that we've brushed the barrel, we're going to inspect it. Now, you can, all the way through the back, you can see all the way out the end of the barrel. I don't know if you can see through there, but you can see, yeah, you can see my big fingers. All right. So you can hold it up to a light, but that always kind of blinds me. So what I like to do is take a white patch, okay, and just stuff it right down in here like this, okay. Put that white patch under a light, okay, and then look through the barrel. So what that's going to do is that's going to kind of light up the inside of that barrel. If I can get it in the right angle, you can see how that's nice and white and bright down that barrel, and you can see it very well. Okay, when I pull the patch out, it gets real dark. So that's just a tip that helps you to inspect your barrel and see where you are. Okay. Now, after we've brushed our barrel and we're happy with the results of that, we are now going to take a dry patch and we're going to swab the barrel with that dry patch. Now, the reason why we're doing that is because that dry patch is going to clean out all the solvent that is still in the barrel. Now, that solvent, now that we've run the brush in there, it has all of the particles of the suspended material that was in the barrel trapped in it. So the deposits are kind of still there. They're floating in the liquid of the solvent. So we're going to put our dry patch in, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to shove it through till it starts to come out the other end, okay, and then I'm going to pull it back so it tightens up in the bore. Now, if you listen, you might be able to hear it squeaking. Okay, so it's making contact all the way around the barrel, and that's what we want. So we're going to get this all cleaned out, and I'm going to show you the patch and show you how much dirt came out with that patch. Okay, so as you can see, we got a lot out of that barrel. So now we're going to re-inspect the barrel, okay, and see how we look. I'm going to use the same method. Take my patch, just stick it in there, and it looks pretty good. Not too bad. Okay, so we've got the bore clean. Now you're going to want to clean up all the little dirt and stuff that's all around the frame and all the different places. You're going to want to get as much dirt out of this thing as you possibly can. If you have to disassemble this, you can. It's not going to kill you to do it. You don't have to be, oh no, I got to take it apart. Just go slow and make sure that when you take it apart, you lay these parts out in order so that you can see what goes back in next, okay? And make mental notes of where everything is, okay? So that's what you're going to do to try and get this all cleaned up if you have to take it apart. Just make sure you do it in a methodical way so that you can put it back together in the same methodical way. Alright, so I'm going to clean up everything I can in here. Now, some of the places where this thing is machined, you're going to notice are a little on the rough side. Okay, you're not going to find rough on the inside of that Mauser Broomhandle. At least not the one I worked on, sure wasn't. That thing was as clean as a whistle. But on these Chinese copies, you may run into that. Now, like I said, if you want to know the difference, I mean, the first thing right off the bat you're going to see is that the Chinese copy has a detachable magazine, okay? The original has an integral magazine, okay, or box magazine. So it's not hard to tell them apart. The other thing you can tell right off the bat is the cost, because people that have these things, they are not going to want to part with them. I'm telling you that right now. They're going to want a good pile of money for these original C-96s. All right, from here, we're going to, like we always do, all these parts that run together on this thing that rub in places, these are all high wear contact points, and you're going to want to make sure you get a little bit of oil in them. You don't have to drown it. It doesn't have to be underwater, you know, in oil, but you do want to get it oiled, okay? You're going to see a marked difference in how stiff it is, because there's a lot of integral movement on these parts. So after you've oiled this thing, you're going to be noticing a big difference just in how the bolt feels in your hand as you pull it back. Okay, now if you don't oil these things, it's going to be stiff. So Mauser, man, this guy was an engineer's engineer. He really, really was. He was like John M. Browning, just plain a mechanical genius. And so you're going to want to realize that that's what this guy was. And a lot of this engineering it's kind of complex. I mean, he's got a lot going on. I kind of feel like in certain cases he over-engineered things a little bit, okay? Not horribly, but a little bit, okay? So, if you remember, we have to put this back in the way we took it out. This hook right here has to stick up, okay? If you put it in this way, it's not going to go in, okay? So, you really can't mess that one up. It just drops into place like that, okay? Once you've got this hooked into place, okay, you're going to have to push down on this thing pretty hard to get it to pop in. So you get it right into this little notch right here. You're going to see there's a notch that'll fit into, okay? And once you get it started, okay, you're going to want to push down on it until it pops in, okay? And it's a little on the stiff side, okay? So But once it's in there, you're set. Now this, once in a while, you'll see a piece pop out, and you'll have to put it back in. It's not the end of the world. You can do it. Of course, I'm fumbling with it because I have gloves on and I'm not used to working with them yet, but I will get that way. Because honestly, it is safer to use this with the chemical solvents and stuff that we're using. I really should be wearing gloves while doing this. Chemical solvents can soak into your skin and can, over long term, cause you health problems. Alright, so I'm going to take my rag and dry some of that oil off of my gloves because I don't want to impregnate the grips on this with oil. Alright, so we're going to simply slip the whole barrel assembly, okay, into the frame, if I can hold it right. Alright, come on, get in there, you. Alright, and we're going to slide it back, alright. Now, you're going to have to fidget with it just a little bit back here on the back to get these lugs to line up with these notches. And this retainer is going to fight you a little bit, but it's not real bad, okay? So, you're going to push it all the way forward, okay, until it pops into place. Okay, now I'm going to have to use my handle here because this gun is just so stiff. It's not like the original Mauser in that it just doesn't fit well together. Okay, and once I tap it in, and you'll see that button will pop down, okay, it's locked into place now. Alright, so from here, we're going to put the bolt back together and put it in. Now, the recoil spring, if you want to clean the recoil spring, you drag it right out through the back of the firing pin hole, okay, and you can clean your spring. Now, I show people a tip on how to do this all the time, but I'm going to show you again. Okay, you're going to wet your patch with material, in other words, cleaning solvent. Okay, and you're going to fold that patch diagonally. Now you're going to take that folded diagonal patch, or diagonally folded patch, and you're going to simply slip it through the windings of this coiled spring. Now you're going to take the two ends and you're going to pull them together around that spring. That is going to have that individual piece of wire surrounded, and you can just crank that spring through almost like it's a big old screw. Okay, and it's just going to crank right through. And that's going to take any of the deposits that are on that spring right off, okay? Now, if you want to oil it in the same way, you absolutely can do that. That's not a problem to do it that way. So, this method also works with oil, which I am going to show you. But before I do that, we need to dry the spring off because it still has that chemical solvent on it. So we're going to fold it diagonally and slip it through the windings. Okay, we're going to work it all the way to one end, like that. Okay, and then we're going to crank it all the way through, and that's going to dry all that solvent off that screw. Okay, once again, I dried the solvent off my gloves so I don't just redeposit it on the spring. So after we've cranked this through like this, okay, we can oil that spring in the same way, simply by taking a patch off of our stack of patches here and impregnating it with oil. Okay, and you don't really need to just drown the entire patch. Really, the center of the patch here is all you're going to need the oil on, because you're going to fold it diagonally, and right there where that oil is what you're going to slip through your windings. Okay, and then when you pull your corners together, again, it's going to completely surround the wire, okay, with that oiled patch. Okay, so once you've got it oiled, you can slip it back into the gun. Now, this Chinese copy has a little bit of an issue to it as far as this spring is concerned. and that is that one end of it is actually a little bigger in diameter than the other, okay? You can actually feel it with your fingers, okay? So I'm going to put the bigger end in because it holds it inside the bolt a little better, okay? And I've got it in backwards, okay? Put it in the other way. Yeah, it's just a little bit stiffer, okay? Now there is a reason for doing that, and I'll show you when we put it back together now. So I'm going to, I like a little extra oil in here, so I'm going to put a little bit inside, okay, right along there. And I'm going to oil the outside of this bolt where it travels in the gun, okay? Now what I'm going to do is just simply take all that oil and rub it all over it, okay? Make sure it's got a good coat on it, okay? Then I'm going to pick up my rag and dry off my fingers, okay? And the bolt is now going to slip back into the gun, but I'm going to show you something. Now this will drive you a little crazy when you go to put this thing back together, all right? You're going to see that this bolt is only going to go in a little ways, and then it's like it's hitting a brick wall, okay? Well, here's what's going on. Down inside the frame, there is a part that moves up and down and locks the bolt into place. So we're going to take the gun and we're going to push it down, and it drops right into place, okay? You can see how that dropped in. Now right now it's hanging up on the hammer a little bit, so we're going to pull that hammer down and the bolt will go in the rest of the way, okay? So now we're in place. The gun is back basically together. There's only a couple things we have left to do. All right, one, we're going to reach in through this hole in the side and make sure that that recoil spring is all the way forward. Now we're going to put back this disassembly piece, all right? So it's not going to want to go past that spring very easily. Well, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can take our firing pin and we can push it forward a little bit, okay, with that, which is, to me, kind of tenuous to get done. Or we can take our little screwdriver and put it through the firing pin hole and use that to push that spring forward out of the way, and that works really good. So once you've done that, okay, now this will only go in properly in one direction, all right? So if you look at it, the part that's on the outside, okay, you're going to want this lobe part here facing the front of the barrel, okay? If you try to put it in the other way, it isn't going to seat all the way and it isn't going to work right. So there's really only one way to put it in properly. So push your spring forward, drop that through the hole, okay, and release your spring. Now, make sure it's all the way down. If it's not all the way down, it's going to be, you'll see that it isn't going to push back into place all the way. So make sure you get it all the way pushed down, and then it's going to go all the way in that, like that. So from here, we put our firing pin back in. Oh, forgot to show you something on the firing pin. There is a spring on this firing pin that looks kind of like it's machined right into the firing pin. It is kind of not. It just literally, there's a couple of screw threads that are designed to have that spring screw right onto them like that. Once that's in place, you got it. So you're going to take your firing pin and stick it right back up through. Now that firing pin goes through this disassembly lug. So now that lug isn't going to come back out of there again on its own. So we'll take our screwdriver, okay, and we'll push our firing pin in, and we will turn it until it locks into place and comes back out. Now, there is a front way and a back way to put this in. In other words, a right way and a wrong way. And the way you can tell that, if you look on the back of your bolt, one side is squared on the top and it's rounded on the bottom, and that corresponds with the firing pin. So you can see this little lobe is rounded and this little lobe is square. If you put it in backwards, the firing pin isn't going to work. So you need to stick it through your hole like we did just a minute ago and make sure you got it the right way. All right. You're going to push it in with your screwdriver and twist it until it pops back out again. Okay, you're going to see that it's sticking out maybe 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now that is going to allow the hammer to depress that firing pin. Now here's something that is important with this gun. You can hit that hammer and slam fire this gun. It will go off that way. It does not have a half cock safety position on it. So if you engage the safety, okay, it will not allow the hammer to go all the way forward. It blocks it. So this is the only way that you can safely carry this gun with a round in the chamber. If you don't have that safety engaged, that hammer can go all the way forward and you can slam fire it. So you're going to want to be real careful with these things. It's not a horrible gun, but believe me, this thing it's just nowhere near as high quality as the actual C-96. So this is the Chinese copy of the Mauser Broomhandle, or C-96 Mauser. Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. If you found this video to be helpful and informative, don't forget to like us, and please subscribe, and by all means come to visit us at askbill1911.com. Also, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to us, and that's your safety. So please, don't try any of the things you see on our videos until you have thoroughly reviewed and understood our safety procedures. If you're under 18 years of age, do not try any of these topics without the express permission of your parent or guardian. Thank you.